Demetres Samuel All-American? That's right. We react to your hot takes.
You are Locked On Syracuse, your daily podcast on the Syracuse Orange. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer, and thank you for making us your first listen of every single day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. We are always free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And on today's show, we react to your hot takes for Syracuse football 2025, just like we did yesterday. But unlike yesterday, where we talked about Syracuse's offense, today is all about the defense. I'm going to show your posts on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening, don't worry. I'm going to read the hot takes for you all, and we're going to react to them together here on this show. But first, this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Let's get right into the hot takes, shall we? So I'm going to post it right here for you all watching on YouTube, but if you're listening, again, I will read it. Demetres Samuel, freshman All-American, and he will log an interception game one against Tennessee. I love this hot take right here, and I don't think it is too far-fetched to suggest that Demetres Samuel will be a freshman All-American and that he'll log an interception against Tennessee. I think that's honestly random, trying to pick and choose which games he'll have an interception in. But sure, why not? Maybe Samuel will come up with an interception against Tennessee. Maybe it is the game-clinching interception. Now, that's a real hot take for you all right there, right? So I love this prediction, obviously. For starters, let's just talk about the player, Demetres Samuel Jr., two-way player, the highest-rated recruit in Syracuse's 2025 class, a consensus four-star player, borderline top 200 overall in the nation. Not only that, if you go look at all the recruiting sites, the recruiting database out there, all of them, Demetres Samuel was actually one of the higher-rated Syracuse recruits in the modern recruiting era. So we're going back until the early 2000s. He's definitely up there as one of the higher-rated recruits in Syracuse over the past 25 plus years. And guess what? He's going to have an opportunity to play significantly for Syracuse as a true freshman, as a 17-year-old. Right now, if I'm making a depth chart for Syracuse football, I think Demetres Samuel is going to be the number one corner for Syracuse football. So he's got talent, and he's also got the opportunity to perhaps be a freshman All-American. But more so this, there's also precedent with Syracuse football. Very recent precedent for Syracuse for having true freshmen emerge right away for this program, both of which did not come to Syracuse with the same high school pedigree like Demetres Samuel. Go back to last season. Murad Watson was a true freshman All-American for Syracuse, and guess what? He parlayed that into a very nice deal with the Texas Longhorns in the transfer portal. I obviously wish nothing but the best to Murad Watson. He showed out last year for Syracuse. Good luck over at Texas. But he did well. In 2021, Deuce Chestnut was a freshman All-American and third-team All-ACC as a corner for Syracuse that year. I'd also like to mention that someone actually quote tweeted my post about the hot takes for offense, and that person specifically said he thinks Demetres Samuel will lead the nation in interceptions. So we're kind of combining two hot takes into one. Freshman All-American, game one he has an interception against Tennessee, and also just leading the nation in interceptions in general. For the most part, I think a lot of you believe that Demetres Samuel is going to have a big true freshman season for Syracuse. I can definitely get behind it. He's got talent. He's got the opportunity to do it. And guess what? He's getting thrown right into the fire game 1 against Tennessee. Oh, no. This isn't Popcorn State in week 1. You got Tennessee in week 1. Hey, right? Let's see what happens with a guy like Demetres Samuel. Maybe he does have an outstanding true freshman year. This is a hot take that I definitely could see happening. Freshman All-American Demetres Samuel. Let's get to the next hot take here. And then I'm going to warn you all right now, there's about 4 of them combined into one, and we'll see that over the course of this podcast. So we'll just go one by one with these hot takes, okay? I'll put up on the screen right now. Tank Wilson will be first team All-ACC. Antoine Deslauriers will have 40-plus tackles. David Reese will have 8 sacks or more. And the defense as a whole will be top 6 in the ACC. Thank you so much, Nick, for the submission. Okay, let's go one by one. I'm going to start with the defense top 6, even though it's out of order. And the reason is because I think if all 3 of your prior hot takes actually happen, then Syracuse's defense will be in the top 6. Now, unfortunately, I don't think that all 3 of what you said earlier will occur for Syracuse. Therefore, I don't necessarily think Syracuse will be a top 6 defense. For context, last year, Syracuse was 12th in total defense and 14th in points allowed. Obviously, not very good. Towards the bottom of the ACC in defense last year. I do think that Syracuse can be better on D than they were last year. But top 6 in the conference, I'm not sure about that. Because now you have to also factor in who Syracuse is playing. And they're playing some really good quarterbacks this season. You got Cade Klubnik, Darian Mensah, Carson Beck, assuming he'll be healthy in that game, Kevin Jennings, Eli Holstein, Haynes King, plenty of more quarterbacks that the Orange are facing just in the ACC in 2025. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility for Syracuse to be a top 6 defense in the conference. But am I confident in that prediction, in that hot take? I am unfortunately not. But maybe you feel differently. So comment in the comments section below. Where do you think Syracuse's defense will rank in the ACC at the end of the season? I'd love your thoughts in the comments section below. And we'll continue with these string of hot takes next on Locked On Syracuse. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. This is Locked On Syracuse. I'm Jackson Holzer. Thank you all so much for making it to this point of the podcast. We are going to continue reacting to your hot takes for Syracuse's defense in 2025. But first, thank you all so much for all the support. Football season is just around the corner. And guess what? We're going to be uploading pretty much every single day over the course of the football season. So you can just do me a favor. If you really like this channel, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. It helps this channel grow to reach all Syracuse Orange fans. And without further ado, let's dive in to this podcast once again. I'm going to show the hot takes once again on the screen from Nick here. We already touched on the defense as a whole being top 6 in the ACC, but still to go. Tank Wilson, first team all conference. Antoine Deslauriers, 40-plus tackles. And David Reese to have 8 or more sacks. Now we're going to go in order after we just went out of order, okay? So, Tank Wilson, first team All-ACC. Definitely a hot take. Not impossible. Definitely a hot take, though. On the Defensive Line podcast, I talked about how Tank Wilson, underrated, because he only played in 5 games last year. But according to Pro Football Focus, he won nearly 13% of his one-on-one opportunities. That's pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you all. 13% win rate one-on-one. That's impressive. Now, I think for him to be first team All-ACC, he's going to have to stay healthy for the entire season. That's number one. He didn't do that last year, unfortunately. Number two, he's going to have to better that win rate over a longer period of games. Can he play every game and win 17% of his one-on-one matchups? Because that's really what it's probably going to take to be in consideration for first team All-ACC. I don't think I can get behind that, but what I can get behind a hot take for is Tank Wilson makes one of the top 3 all-conference teams. This gives him a little bit more margin for error. So he could maybe be third team All-ACC or second team All-ACC. First team All-ACC, you're talking about one of the 2 best interior defensive linemen in the conference. I'm not sure Tank Wilson is that. Could he be top 6, which is what it would take to be one of the top 3 teams in the conference? That's a hot take for you all that I can get behind. I do think it's possible, but I like where your head's at, Nick. Next up, we'll go to Antoine Deslauriers with the 40-plus tackles. I don't know how much of a hot take this really is, and I'll explain why in just a second. ESPN top 20 linebacker in the class of 2025. Very close to being a 4-star recruit over there. And ESPN had the highest rating for Antoine Deslauriers in this recruiting cycle. If he gets the playing time, I could totally see this. There is precedent for Syracuse true freshman linebackers having nearly 40 tackles recently. Not 40, but close to 40. In 2019, Michael Jones, as a true freshman, had 38 tackles. And in 2020, Marlo Wax, when he was a true freshman, had 33 tackles. So this is a hot take with Antoine Deslauriers saying he'll have 40-plus tackles. I can get behind that. In fact, if he gets the playing time, he probably will well exceed 40-plus tackles. Let's move on to David Reese. 8 or more sacks in 2025. He is the Fidel Diggs replacement. I think David Reese is the one guaranteed player to start on the defensive line. Is that a good way to say it? I know Fran Brown doesn't like to guarantee anyone anything, but David Reese, with his resume, he's most likely starting along that defensive line, at least to begin the season, entering his 8th year of college football. But I mentioned Fidel Diggs and how David Reese is the replacement for him. Last year, Fidel Diggs, after some seasons over at Texas A&M, he transferred to Syracuse, and he had a career-high 7.5 sacks last year. His previous career high was 4 sacks in 2023. Now, currently, David Reese, his career high in sacks is 6.5 at Cal in 2023. Last year, he was also at Cal, and he had 4.5 sacks. I think saying 8 or more is possible. I don't know if it's that much of a hot take, but I'm not sure I'm predicting that either. I think it's more on the higher end of the range of outcomes for David Reese as far as sack total this season, because I could see it. I'm not predicting it, but I could see him getting 8 sacks. I think more of a hot take would be David Reese will have double-digit sacks this season. That's a hot take for you all, right? All right. So thank you so much, Nick, for all those hot takes. Let's move on to the next submission right here from @1QSFan. Tank Wilson will be a leader amongst the defense and a good chance to be first team All-ACC. Antoine Deslauriers will have a monster true freshman year, getting 30-plus tackles. Derek McDonald will lead the team in tackles, and the defense will break into the top 5 in the ACC. I feel like you and Nick typed out the exact same hot takes. So here's the deal, okay? We already talked about Tank Wilson, first team All-ACC. We already talked about Antoine Deslauriers and 40-plus tackles, so we're not going to talk about him now with 30-plus tackles. That's definitely more realistic, though, if we're being honest. We also talked about the defense top 6 in the ACC. You're saying defense top 5 in the conference. I don't know how much of a difference there really is between the 6th best defense and the 5th best defense, so I don't think we necessarily need to address it. I guess the only thing I will say is I don't see top 3 occurring. How about that? Okay, but you want to say top 5, top 6, fine. That's a hot take. So let's get into Derek McDonald, the one player you mentioned that we have not talked about yet on this show. Derek McDonald to lead the team in tackles. I think this is a reasonable prediction. I'm not sure if this is really a hot take for you, because Derek McDonald most likely is going to be one of the 2 starting inside linebackers for Syracuse football. And if you're a starting inside linebacker, automatically you're one of the front runners to lead any team in tackles. Think about how many tackles a linebacker usually makes. A linebacker typically leads the team in tackles in any given year, not just Syracuse, not just college, but basically at any level of football. In 2023, Derek McDonald finished 3rd on Syracuse in tackles with 67, and that's actually his career high. If given enough playing time, I think Derek McDonald will surpass his career high in tackles, and he will have a strong chance to lead the team overall in tackles. I think more of a hot take here for Derek McDonald is that Derek McDonald, for the first time in his career, finishes as an all-conference player. What are your thoughts on Derek McDonald for this season? Comment in the comment section below. Coming up, we'll continue to react to your hot takes for Syracuse's defense in 2025. Stick with me here on Locked On Syracuse. Let's continue reacting to your defense hot takes for Syracuse in 2025. Let's dive right into it here. I see Derek McDonald having a breakout year. Deuce Chestnut climbs back into a huge role for the defense, and Chris Peel lights it up opposite of Demetres Samuel. Thank you, Matt, for the submission. Okay, Derek McDonald, breakout year. We just kind of talked about Derek McDonald at the end of last segment. I think now we're getting somewhere. The thing with Derek McDonald in this hot take is, how do you define a breakout year? Do you define it as him having a career high in tackles? His current career high, like we mentioned in the previous segment, is 67. Is it that much of a hot take to say that he'll have 68 or more tackles as a starting inside linebacker? Probably not. I don't think that's a hot take at all. Is it a hot take to say he'll have 100 tackles? I would say that's a hot take for sure. Breakout year, you can also define it as him being an all-conference player, like we talked about at the end of last segment as well. Would Derek McDonald finally crack an All-ACC team? Because he has spent all 4 of his prior seasons at Syracuse. He has started plenty of games for this team, and yet he's never quite been able to put it all together. Is this year the year for Derek McDonald? Because think of it this way. It's his last season at Syracuse. It's his last season in college football. I'm assuming, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming that Derek McDonald, when he is done playing at Syracuse, done playing in college football, assuming he still loves the sport of football, he'd probably like to play professionally. Just like many other college players out there, they want to go to the National Football League and live out the dream. This is his last chance. As of right now, Derek McDonald has not shown that he is going to be an NFL player. But that can all change in one season. Derek McDonald has a strong breakout year, like you mentioned, Matt. Maybe he does at this point next year land at least in an NFL training camp. Maybe he gets drafted. I don't know. The point is that Derek McDonald certainly has the motivation to go out and have a big final season over at Syracuse. So saying he's going to have a breakout year, you know what? I would love for that to obviously happen. Will it happen? I guess we'll all find out, at least in week 1 against Tennessee. But let's keep going here with your hot takes, Matt. Deuce Chestnut, a huge role. Deuce Chestnut made 11 starts last year at safety, so he already has a big role with Syracuse football. But I think what you're referring to is what he was early in his career at Syracuse. Deuce Chestnut started at Syracuse as a true freshman in 2021 at corner, freshman All-American, like we talked about at the beginning of the show, All-ACC player. He follows it up with a strong second season at corner for Syracuse. Then he leaves the program prior to 2023 and goes to LSU. Now, things don't necessarily work out for him at LSU, so Fran Brown gets hired for Syracuse in 2024, and look who's back. Deuce Chestnut returned to Syracuse ahead of the 2024 season, and I thought he had a good year last year. And again, he started 11 of the games he played in last year. 11 of them. So he has a big role. I think what you're referring to, though, is that he probably returns to an all-ACC player like he was early at Syracuse. I could definitely see that happening. 100%. Deuce Chestnut, first team, second team, third team, all-ACC. I am on board with that. If you want him to be a corner, I understand. All indications seem to be that he's going to be a safety once again for Syracuse, but a pretty good safety, I might add. Finally, final hot take from you. Chris Peel lights it up opposite of Demetres Samuel. Absolutely love this hot take because, as we're about to describe, I don't think many of us know what Chris Peel is going to be for Syracuse. That's kind of the intrigue with this hot take here. He's entering his third season of college football. His previous 2 seasons were not spent with Syracuse. They were spent with the Georgia Bulldogs. In fact, I believe that Fran Brown was Chris Peel's recruiter back when he was in high school, a former 4-star recruit. Let's just be honest about Chris Peel. He has talent. We know that from his high school pedigree, but he has not yet had the opportunity to really showcase that talent. Georgia, they're freaking loaded. They are. Every player on Georgia's roster, or almost every single one of them that appear relatively high on the depth chart, are going to be a 4-star or 5-star recruit. And if they're not a 4-star or 5-star recruit, then yeah, maybe they were a 3-star guy and they just popped in college. Or maybe they were just severely underrated by the recruiting experts in high school, and Georgia knew something that they didn't. They are loaded with blue chip talent across the board. And when you're loaded with that much talent across the board, it's hard to crack the team. That's why Georgia is consistently amazing every single year. It's why when they only win 10 games in a regular season, you're kind of left disappointed if you are a Georgia fan. If they're not in the college football playoff for Georgia, it is a failure. So back to the point with Chris Peel, he's got talent. He was not really able to crack Georgia's very talented lineup. Now, assuming Demetres Samuel is the number 1 corner, that leaves the number 2 cornerback spot up for grabs, which I've documented here before on this channel. We've talked all about it. I think it's between 2 guys, and one of them is Chris Peel, and the other is returning sophomore Davian Kerr, who started the final 4 games for Syracuse at defensive back a year ago. So the bottom line with Chris Peel, I would love for him to light it up. I really would. And I do think that is in the range of outcomes because we don't really know the range of outcomes for a guy like Chris Peel. He could come to Syracuse and be an all-conference corner. That's on the table. He could also come to Syracuse this year and really struggle. We don't entirely know. But hey, if Chris Peel has a big year, opposite of Demetres Samuel, who's the number 1 corner, if he has a big year too, maybe you combine the 2 hot takes together. freshman All-American Demetres Samuel. Big year for Chris Peel. Got a pretty nice starting tandem at cornerback this season. What are your thoughts for Syracuse's defense in 2025? Comment in the comment section below. That is it for your hot takes for the defense in 25. But hey, you know what? If you have any more of them, feel free to comment in the comment section below. Now, as far as what is coming up on Locked On Syracuse here in the near future, tomorrow we got 2 podcasts, one of which being ACC Squad, most likely at 5 p.m. Eastern. And then right after that, the Offensive Line Preview Podcast here on this channel. We only have 2 more position groups to talk about, one of which will be tomorrow, the offensive line. And then we got the special teams. And then that's it for position previews for 2025 Syracuse football. And if you're interested in checking out more position previews that we have already done here on this channel, you can go look at the playlist section over on Locked On Syracuse. There's a label right there with all the position previews for 2025. Just click on that label and find the one that you want to watch or listen to. So that's what's coming up on Locked On Syracuse in the near future. Thank you for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, you can check out the Locked On Portal Show with football recruiting expert Brian Smith. He's got the latest rumors and signings each and every day. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. And find the Portal Podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening. If you like this podcast, be sure to hit that like button. If you really enjoy the podcast, be sure to hit subscribe. Tell all your friends about Locked On Syracuse, and I will see you all again soon.